Good morning. If you have not figured it out by now, music is a big part of my life personally, and that is why very often music is one of the topics that we bring to Coffee Breaks with Steve. And that's going to happen again today. We're going to have a great conversation with a gentleman who is a good friend of mine and also an amazing musician, a songwriter, singer, arranger, and just somebody who's got a very special story to tell. So put on the brakes, grab a cup of coffee, and join the conversation because it's time for Coffee Breaks with Steve. I have my travel cup still on the road, out of town, not in Spokane at the moment. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. But again, good morning to you. If you are here for the first time, we want to welcome you. If you've been with us before, welcome back. This is Coffee Breaks with Steve. I'm Steve Glavin, and this is the show where we gather together around our virtual coffee table every week to join the conversation around interesting topics with amazing guests, and today is no exception. So I'm glad you're here. Saw a couple of people here that were already saying hello to us, and we want to encourage you to do that. Kim Baker, good meowing afternoon and happy Canada. Absolutely, Kim. Good to see you here. Jerry Zettervall, Jerry Thompson. The Jerrys are here. All right. It's a party now. And if you are joining us, do make sure that you follow their lead and say hello in the chat so we know that you're here. If you're here for the first time, we'd love to know what brought you to us and have you tell us where you're signing in from. And just curious how everybody's doing today. I'm still in the Portland metropolitan area through the remainder of this weekend, actually in Tualatin, Oregon right now. And it's foggy this morning. That was what the forecast said. We were going to have fog this morning, and we do. What's it like where you're at? What's the weather like today? I know some of you actually are tuning in from this area. So you may also be experiencing the fog, but wherever you're at, I hope you're doing all right. Hi, Joel. Good to see you. Thank you. The beard is actually, I'll talk a little bit more about the beard in a moment too, but thank you for that, Joel. Yeah, it's an interesting time to be out and about. I'm more often the one who's staying home. Carol has a contract job that she does that takes her back and forth to the East Coast for a couple of weeks at a time. So very often I'm remaining in Spokane and taking care of the home front while Carol travels. Sometimes I get to travel with her, but this time I'm here in the Portland area. I've been here now for almost 2 weeks because of the play that I'm involved in that many of you already know about. Fiona in the Middle is a unique original musical, actually, that we've been working on for several months. I have had the pleasure of being both a co-director and a member of the cast, and that's why the beard. And we're actually presenting it tonight. Everything that we've been doing has been working toward this one night. It's a one night only presentation right now. It doesn't mean that it will never be shown again, but very special the way we're doing it. And that leads me to talk for just a few minutes about our sweet and savory, because the first thing I have on there is just to mention that Fiona in the Middle is being presented tonight after months of work. The last couple of weeks of really focusing in on it. We've had more intensive rehearsals. We've had last night tech rehearsal, dress run through, and tonight we're going to be bringing it to an audience. And that's both, how if you've ever been involved in anything that takes place live on a stage or in any setting like that, you know that that is both nerve-wracking and extraordinarily exciting. And I am mostly excited about this. There's always that nervousness. Professional performers will tell you the day you stop being nervous is the day you should stop going out on the stage. You should always have those butterflies. You should always have some nerves. So that's not unusual. Once again, if you're joining us, do say hello in the chat while we're talking about this. But if you are in the Portland area and you would like to come and see the show tonight, it's at the Sherwood Center for the Arts. You can still go online, and if you go to the Sherwood Center for the Arts website, you'll see that down there is a link right on their website for the Fiona in the Middle show that's taking place tonight, and there is a link on that page to click here for tickets, which will take you to the Eventbrite page where you can get your tickets. It's open seating in the auditorium there, so it's not like you have to worry about, oh no, I may not get a good seat if I'm buying tickets late. Just get there a little bit early. You can pick your seat. And also, you can buy tickets at the door. You can buy tickets at the door this evening, and the doors will open at 6:30. The show's at 7. So just want to invite you to come and join us there. I'll be looking for friends and family members in the audience because I know they'll be there. And you won't have to look hard to see me because I'm going to be up on the stage with the rest of the cast. There you go. I wanted to share this story because I thought this one was really cute and fun. This took place in Newfoundland. During an annual half marathon run in Newfoundland, a strange individual was seen among the runners during the final few miles. During the annual Railroad Trek half marathon on Newfoundland's east coast, an unusual participant joined the race. Winding through forest trails and town streets, the runners passed a local business called Taylor's Pumpkin Patch. And then the mayor of this town, Conception Bay South, said they have a resident goat whose name is Mr. Joshua. And when the runners went past the pumpkin patch, the goat decided, well, I'm not staying here, and he joined them. The goat covered an amazing 2.4 miles of the course before his owner, Mr. Taylor, caught up to him and led him the last quarter mile to the finish line. Taylor said he'd become aware of his goat's newfound passion for endurance running through social media posts of the race while it was going on. There were hundreds of pictures and videos being posted. Meanwhile, at the finish line, Mayor Bent, the mayor of this town, caught word of Joshua's participation from other runners and decided after a moment of befuddlement to prepare a medal for him. We very quickly put a medal around his neck and he became quite the star. Most people who actually ran the half marathon wanted their picture taken with Joshua at the finish line, said Bent. Mr. Taylor said that Joshua, and by the way, we've got the, get my pointer in the right place here, and there is a screenshot of the Facebook page for the town of Conception Bay South. And you can see that the town officials, and Mr. Taylor are there posing with Joshua and his medal. Mr. Taylor said that Joshua has always liked crowds and evidently got caught up in the excitement of the runners, many of whom decided to match their pace with the goat, who reportedly slowed down and sped up at different intervals, which one does. Joel, you know this. You're a distance runner. Is that during race you set your pace according to the terrain and the pitch of the ground and just conditions around you. Apparently, this goat has got a natural ability for it. The mayor said he hopes the goat will become a mascot for the event, and to that end, he has been designated the half marathon goat, greatest of all time, and is soon to drop the puck at a local Conception Bay South ice hockey game. So there you have it. I just, stuff like this. How can you not smile? How can you not chuckle a little bit? What a great thing for this town. What a great thing for Joshua the goat. Yeah, my kind of running participant. I'm with you, Joel. I also wanted to mention a couple of birthdays this week. We have some important birthdays going on. The first one I wanted to mention is my brother-in-law, Rick Venturi, who is here in town. I get to see him this evening. He and his wife, my sister Carla, are going to be at Fiona in the middle, so I know I'm going to get a chance to say hello, give him a hug, and wish him a happy birthday. His birthday's tomorrow, and so we'll do a little bit of pre-celebrating in one way or another with Rick. Happy birthday, Rick. And then my granddaughter, Summer Wheelock. This is a biggie. Summer is turning 18 years old next week. I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around that one, but on October 10th, Summer will have a birthday, and so happy birthday to Summer. We'll find a way to celebrate with you as well. Do you have a special day this week that I didn't have on my calendar, or maybe just overlooked it in my, who knows what my is? I'm busy I'm busy working on a show that I have to present tonight. There's a lot going on. But if I missed your special day, would you put it in the chat, please, so that we can celebrate that with you and acknowledge you right here on Coffee Breaks with Steve? And maybe you have a special day coming up in the next few weeks sometime, maybe further in the month of October or before the end of this year. You can send us an email at cbwsteve@comcast.net, and we will make sure to put that on our calendar and that we'll celebrate with you. We want to celebrate your special days. You're part of this conversation. You're sitting around our virtual coffee table. We want to raise a cup and everybody drink. All right, I did. Anyway, yes, special days. really what a lot of life is about, isn't it? Our special days. I love special days. Listen, I want to tell you a little bit about our guest, and I want to introduce him and then let you hear the conversation that I had. Kenny Snyder is a husband, father, and grandfather who resides in Newberg, Oregon with his wife, Tricia. Their 36-year journey together has led them to various positions in churches from Los Angeles to Portland, mostly involved in worship ministries, along with over 4 years in Youth with a Mission, sometimes referred to as YWAM, and Luis Palau Evangelistic Association, where Kenny was part of the praise band there for several years. Currently, Tricia has a massage therapy practice in Newberg, and Kenny is a pastor at the Newberg Friends Church, where he leads worship, is on the teaching team, and coordinates outreach and events. So he's not very busy. He has a side hustle, again, not being very busy. He has a side hustle as an R&B musician with the band 21 Turns, and also writes and composes new material as a singer-songwriter and recording artist. The title of our program today was God-Given Talent, and there is, as you've already caught on from just this introduction and you're about to learn more, it really fits Kenny Snyder. So here's my conversation with Kenny. Kenny Snyder, welcome to Coffee Breaks with Steve. It's good to see you. Thanks for being here.
Good to see you too. I should grab some coffee probably, but
you you can catch up with that later. That's all right.
Little late in the day.
Yeah. I do have mine because I'm an all day coffee drinker. But you have quite a background in a variety of areas. One of the key ones is in music, and I'm curious about how that journey started for you in your upbringing, in your childhood. Was music typically a part of your household, and how did your entry into music begin?
Yeah, I mean, my dad was a pastor, and they were actually mom and dad led what we called leading worship at church. So they did that a lot growing up. So I was very used to music being around the house, then practicing. I remember my mom practicing piano, which she never did really like, but she would try her best to do that. But I remember a particular day, if I could share that, I was, I think, 4 or 5 years old. And my mom and dad, used to go to Arco or whatever, and you could get these records if you filled your car, the whole tank with gas. So we had all these records in there, and they were like instrumental music, like Three Coins in a Fountain, stuff along that line. And I remember that being on. And I remember I was in front of remember the old consoles that it could, it was a weapon of mass destruction, basically. It's a huge thing. But somehow I turned on that record, and I think that song or one of the songs came on. And I remember standing there and like tears, I started crying. And I think right then I had this realization as a little boy that I loved melody. I loved hearing the weaving of, instruments in and out. So that was probably, if we're talking about the first thing where I knew that there was something in my life towards music, it was probably right there.
When did you start playing music, singing? How did that part of your journey come about? Were there formal lessons? Did you just start doing things on your own?
Probably I did a little bit, growing up in grade school and stuff. I actually took clarinet, and I think the reason was because the first chair was really cute. So, and I was always second chair. I could never beat her out, but I didn't mind. But anyway, probably in high school is when I finally realized, in middle school, we had a church choir, and I sang alto. So it was kind of embarrassing. I'm like in there, with the ladies all around me. But then my voice kind of dropped, and I, in high school was really when I started getting involved in jazz choir and kind of realized, wow, I actually have a gift of music here. And I started taking piano lessons and started writing songs. And me and my friend, Pat Reedy, in high school wrote a song that we got to sing in front of the whole school. And then I wrote my first song, won a national competition in National Scholastic Magazine. I got third place in the nation. And I mean, the principal of the high school called me in and said, congratulations. I thought he's calling me in to sign up for the draft, but my senior year, but he said, congratulations, you got one of the highest awards in music we've ever seen at this school. And he gave me this award from National Scholastic. So that's when I knew that I actually had a gift of some kind. And probably from there, then on into college, I went down to Vanguard University, and that's when I kind of realized that I did have a gift and started doing music a lot at that point. So
You said you had some lessons, but I mean, you developed a lot of this, both in terms of the songwriting and your own performance was a lot of just your own personal study and self-teaching, correct?
well, I would say there's lessons and then there's mentors. And
Okay.
so I probably went on the side. I did have piano lessons, but I learned most of what I learned from mentors, older people that were good at music that I would just go and ask them questions. And I would just, how do you do that? What do you mean? What is that? What's the circle of fifths? What does this all mean? And then as far as songwriting, the same thing, asking a lot of questions, uh, and just kind of listening to music and figuring out, this is how this works best, and kind of over time learning how to say what you need to say in as little words as possible, which to me is great songwriting.
Mhm.
And so I would say landing on the side of mentors more than actual private lessons. I had some of those. In college, I had a Chinese. The only reason I say that is because they're so drilled into them, like regimented. And she was awesome. But man, me and her were from different worlds, but we figured out a way to work together. And she was always a little frustrated because I'd come in, seem a little bit unprepared. And then she came to a chapel that they asked me to lead the music, the worship at a chapel in Vanguard. And she sat through that and came up afterwards with awe on her face and said, now I know what your calling is. You're not called to be a classical artist. You're called to be an artist that leads people in worship, things. So kind of a compliment. And I kind of started going that way full time after that. So that's,
Let's talk just a little bit more about that specifically. You talked about your dad was a pastor and your parents involved in ministry. Vanguard University is a liberal arts Christian college.
mhm.
And this was there a point at which you specifically felt God's calling on you to take what you were already passionate about in music and make that a focal point of ministry?
Yeah, I think that part definitely came through personal time with God and sitting at the piano and realizing from actually feeling the Lord speaking through me that I want to use you in this way and guiding me into, learning how to write easy, simple songs and then taking those into chapel in front of 1,000 peers in LA at Vanguard, in Costa Mesa and trying out my songs. And lo and behold, I look out and see 300, 400 people the first time through starting to sing a chorus that the Lord had given me. And that kind of inspired me more. And then me and another guy at the college started recording, started actually putting together a band and recording and making CDs and going out and teaching others how to write worship songs. We actually got on the radio a lot with our worship music and it just kind of went from there after that. But one of the key things was they asked me to do, I think one year I did over 30 chapels. I led worship. So
Wow.
it made me, it really honed me in my gifting. And then right from there, I got hired by a church in LA while I was still like a sophomore in college, I think. So talk about, I mean, I just went straight into it.
Yeah.
Not full time, but close to it.
Any idea how many songs you have written altogether?
Partial songs or full songs. It has to
Hey,
be.
let's say even if we talk about full songs that have been published, recorded, or in some way that you've had them at a place where they could be performed.
Oh, okay. I'd say 60 to 80 of those, but
Okay.
probably 600 or 800
Yeah.
songs. But I'm always constantly, like right now, I work with Pro Tools and Ableton and lots of plugins and working on stuff. So I'm probably working on, I probably have 15 to 20 songs. Being a pastor, it's just like, oh, I got 1 hour. I'm going to jump over there and work on this kid's song. And I'm just going to add tambourine today. And so, yeah, but probably songs that have been on CDs and others, recordings and things, probably I'd say 60 to 80, somewhere in there through the years.
Yeah. Do you have any songs that you have written, recorded, performed that to you mean the most to you, and what are those songs and why do they mean so much to you?
I mean, the first song that I won that national award will always mean a lot to me. It was called "I See Your Glory," and I remember it's a funny story because I was out with my brother and he was sighting in his rifle for hunting season. So he's like over there shooting at targets, sighting in his rifle, and I kind of wander out across the way, and I just had this moment with God, and I see your glory in the heaven, da, da, da. And I wrote this out, and probably one of the special moments was I didn't know that one of my mentors, Curtis Cluett, who's now lives in Barcelona, he's a missionary and musician extraordinaire, but he took that while I was on choir tour from Roseburg High School Choir. We were in LA. He took that and made a whole choral arrangement and instrumental arrangement. And when I got back the week before Easter, I walked in and he had the choir all ready and they sang my song, the whole choir with all the parts. And I just stood there with my mouth open because I'd never heard that before. So that's probably one. The second one would be a very meaningful song would be the one I wrote for Trisha for our wedding. And we sang it actually before the ceremony. She came in the back room and I sang it to her, and then I sang it at the ceremony. Those would be two really special ones. There's other ones through time that have impacted me, but also that I've seen that they impact the audience that hears them. And so they have some great meaning. There was one back in the day when you and I were together that brought a huge standing ovation. I remember it was 400 Martyrs, I think, something like that, about the people that are dying for their faith. And at the end, I'd never had a standing ovation before. And
Wow.
at the end of that one. So times like that are pretty special. As a songwriter and performer. So,
Beyond the faith and worship music, what other styles do you write and perform?
I've written, I actually wrote a song that my father and my father-in-law always loved and requested. It's actually takes place in a chapel, but it is a kind of more patriotic song about we won't forget. What you can't remember, we won't forget. And
Kenny, I have to tell you, that's one that I play over and over again as well. I just have to interrupt to mention that one is. I'm gonna share a quick story.
Okay.
I remember when you wrote that.
Yeah.
And you asked me, we were working together at the time, and my office was right next to yours. And you asked me to come in, and you played it for me. And I think I was in tears by the time you finished.
I was standing in a chapel on the 4th of July, beside the dearest couple I've ever seen. After we had pledged allegiance, the preacher said, keep standing if you served your country here or overseas. From the corner of my eye, I saw that old man start to sit down, and his wife reached out and took him by the hand. She reminded him again that he had fought in the Pacific. Then she held him close and said these words to him: what you can't remember, as he stood there taking in the applause. I thought about so many who've been lost to the cause. See them in the streets still trying to find their way home. They survived the war, but the war claimed their soul. It's our duty as Americans to rise and let them know we will remember what they can't forget. They are our heroes. We're in their debt. They fought for our freedom, defied every threat. We will remember what they can't forget. They fought for our freedom, defied every threat. We will remember. We won't forget.
That's probably, as you asked the last question too, that's probably one of my favorites. And not only because other people liked it, but because my dad and my father-in-law were both in the Korean War.
Yeah.
And they just understood it and they loved it. And it meant a lot to me that they loved that song. Beyond that, I've written, other songs in other genres. I really love R&B, and we can talk, in a minute about. But I'm in an R&B band, been in one for 4 or 5 years now, and so I really love that style and influence of like a Michael McDonald kind of recording artist, Doobie Brothers, stuff like that. So all along the way, even if it was a Christian song, I definitely had the influence of like some Michael McDonald in there, and the chord structures and stuff, which because you did choir with a lot of those songs that I had written and stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about your R&B band. I'd be curious to know how that came about and what the band is doing. Where do you perform? How often do you perform?
Yeah. So when I got back, Trish and I, after we left the last church we were in, Horizon, we joined Youth with a Mission, Youth Without Any Money. It's another joke for a bit. And we moved to Kona, Hawaii for a couple of years. And when we felt like we should come back from there, which was really hard, but we felt it's time to come back to the mainland. I was really missing playing with really good musicians because I got back and I wasn't involved in a church for a while. And so I got a hold of some friends from back in the days before I went to Hawaii and said, hey, can we just get together and jam? So we just started it by jamming and having fun. And then it almost seems like it was on one night. I said, we actually sound really good. Maybe we should get serious about this. And so we met and we said, well, what genre should we do? Because we didn't want to be, a lot of bands, cover bands do 4 or 5 styles. We basically almost all exclusively do R&B music. So we decided on that. We might do a Journey song, in the set. But and from there we just started practicing, and then we started putting our name out there and getting some gigs. We don't do tons because we're all busy with our lives, but like this week and next week we have private events. So we actually like those because they're a little shorter than the long nights staying at some club somewhere or whatever. But and our other favorite is just doing these summers at a park. Like a park will sponsor bands, and we've come in and done those. We really like. But the best part about it is actually just being together with good musicians and feeling a song come together. And we do it in the same key as the original artist, and pretty much just like the original artist. So it's very challenging compared to a worship song. So.
And what's the name of the band?
21 turns, and that was just from a dream the drummer had. We have no idea. All I know is in the Hebrew numbers, 21 is pretty good and 22 is really good or something. So I said, oh, 21 turns into 22, which is funny because we started in 2019. And in 21, we didn't do any gigs because of COVID.
Yeah.
So our big number year, we were like getting all settled for that. And we're like, oh, everything canceled. But yeah, we just have a kick. And I think you know that this feeling of being with other people that just love music. And you just don't want to even end, you just want to play together. So
Yeah,
it's really fun. We do have a Facebook page.
and we will make sure that we put that out there so that people can see where they can find you. Kenny, I'm just curious from your perspective, with all of your experience, why do you think that music is so important as a way to express and enter, express faith, enter into worship, and also just in general as a way to foster creativity? What is it about music that does all of those things?
Well, definitely, we all know that, music's a universal language, but when you do travel the world, like we've been blessed to do, and come into a little village in Cambodia or Africa, and you realize the best place to anybody's heart in the whole world is music. There's something about that God built into us, this thing of enjoyment, of moving, of melody, of harmony, of the beauty of simple music and complex music. And so I think just seeing that, it's the thing that brings the world together, is just an important part of it and beautiful to me. So there's this thing planted in all of creation. And of course, we know even that the planets make music, that the whole, all of nature and creation makes music. And so there's that beautiful part of we're just joining in with them. And I think that's the key to that, flowing with how God created it in nature and in life all around us. Yeah. I don't know if I answered everything, but
Yeah, no, I think that's a great answer, Kenny. You, before we started recording, you mentioned you had a pretty funny story about, I think we were talking about how you got involved, the church that you're now on staff at, and that there were some funny stories behind that. Is there anything you want to share there?
yeah, so we're involved with a Quaker church. If you understand the Quaker background compared to where I grew up in a basically like a Pentecostal type church, they're quite a ways away from each other. And we always had this little card by our counter that said, "Watch out for the surprises of Jesus." So we feel like we're on a journey of discovery in our lifetime, and so are you, where God's hiding himself not from you, but for you to discover things. So fast forward, we're back from YWAM in Kona, and we find our way out to Newberg, Oregon, which is beautiful. It's really a Quaker town, but it's also wine country. It's just gorgeous out here. And we had Sunday mornings available. So we started going to different churches just to see what was up, what God's doing. And the 13th time, we woke up at like 9:45 one Sunday, and I said, "Hey, Siri," I said, "Trish, we should go to the oldest church in town." So, "Hey, Siri, what's the oldest church in town in Newberg?" It said Newberg Friends Church. And so we jumped out of bed, didn't shower or anything, just ran down there because it started at 10:30. And we thought we were being inconspicuous, but all these people came over afterwards to greet us. And they said, "What's your background?" I said, "Oh, I was a worship pastor for 30 years now, 25 years, and but we're just here to enjoy, the different churches." And they said, "Oh, but you must be here about the position." And I went, "What position?" And they said, we're looking for a music worship coordinator, part-time for the church. And it worked out perfect because I already was still working with YWAM and some other things. And so suddenly I just said, "Well, yeah, let's dive in and see what God might be doing." And I got that position. And then that grew into a full-time position over the next year. The senior pastor was pretty young. He was like my son's age. So we just hit it off and had a blast and, just hanging out together. And he finally was like, "Hey, I'd like Kenny to come on full-time." So came on here, and then he's meanwhile moved to Denver, Colorado. And I'm here at the church. I'm the only full-time pastor at this church right now. And it's fun. We're in a totally different environment. The makeup of the people, like I told you, we love to have lots of people involved in music. And so this church has traditionally had a really, really excellent high bar music program. But things shifted through the years, and now we brought the bar way down to let people come and enjoy music together. So we do still have a bell choir, and we have a couple accomplished cellists, and so there's times when we get into some legit serious music as well. So it's fun.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You also have written a book that's available to people. Tell us a little bit about the book. The title itself is interesting, but what is the book about and who's it for?
Well, I'll just show from the picture. That's my little granddaughter and me at the piano, and it's not rocket science, a down-to-earth conversation about music. And basically, it's on Amazon. You can get it on there. But basically, it was just kind of a guide from not knowing the first thing about theory to by the end being able to play and actually understand. And the thing that makes it different than probably a common book on learning music theory is I add in a lot of stuff about the mindset of a musician or a band member and playing with each other. So I include a lot of different things in there about how to play with a group, how, and writing melody and things like that. So it's pretty fun. I actually did all the little drawings in here myself, and it's just a fun book, and I think you would enjoy it.
Where can people, both with 21 Turns and your music individually, where can people find more? Where can they find the music? Where can they find information about, whether it's recorded music or where you might be playing or performing?
Yeah, easy for mine is kennysnyder.com. You can go on there, and I got a lot of music on there from kind of a span of time of probably 25 years or so. Some of the stuff that you, Steve, know, and we used to sing in church. Some of those country songs are in there. I still got a long ways to go to get music up there. I'll go in there and look and go, I don't have that song in there. What? But I do have some full like CDs in there as well that you can get. And I think I put in there a price of like 0 to 99 cents or something for a song. But if anyone wants to go in there, kennysnyder.com and find a lot of my music from through the years, that's there and available. 21 Turns is not spelled out. It's just the number 21 and then separate word turns band. And I think that's on Facebook. It's a Facebook page. Our youngest member is our other singer, and she's like pushing to get us on Instagram because we're all older and we're kind of like, Facebook is like so current. And she's like, not even Instagram is anymore. I don't know what you guys are doing. But anyway, you can find us on Facebook.
Excellent.
That's pretty much it.
Kenny Snyder, thank you so much for taking the time to join us here on Coffee Breaks with Steve. Thank you for all that you have put out there that I know in my life, and I know in the lives of many other people, has made a difference in terms of just the blessings of your music. And thank you for doing all that you do to make a difference.
Thanks so much, Steve. Good to see you.
All right. Once again, a conversation with Kenny Snyder. I love his story because there are so many elements to it, from his childhood all the way through his years in high school, college, his call to ministry. And Kenny's one of those people. I did have an opportunity to work with him in a variety of capacities for several years when he was the worship pastor at Grace Community Church, eventually Horizon Community Church. The name changed over time. For the first few years that we were working together, I was simply a volunteer. Kenny was more. Kenny is a great. I've seen him direct choirs. He does a great job, but that was not his main focus. And so he brought me in to work with him to direct choir. And while he then is we would get ready for the Christmas season, and I'd be working with the choir and he'd be working with the band. And then closer to the time of presenting the cantata or whatever we were doing, we'd bring everything together. And he and I always had just a great relationship working together and planning that out. And then eventually I was hired to be on staff at the church in a capacity other than music, but I still continued to volunteer to direct the choir and continued to work with Kenny over, I think we worked together, I can't remember now, but I mean, it may have been a total of something like 12, 13 years of that, maybe even a little bit more. I don't it all runs together after a while, year upon year, but we enjoyed working with each other. And so thank you, Kenny, for taking the time to share your story, for being on Coffee Breaks with Steve. It's always great to get together. By the way, in sharing that song in the middle, that was, we talked about it afterwards. We recorded the entire episode, and then I went back to Kenny and said, would it be all right if I shared We Won't Forget? Because it's just such a special song, and I hope Kenny doesn't mind. It's on his site, it's just an audio track, and I took the liberty of putting together the video montage that you saw with it. So I hope it was appropriate, and I hope, Kenny, that you don't mind that I added the visuals there for that, for the purpose of a video podcast. But yes, it's to me, that's always been, and it's representative of so many of Kenny's songs, of being moving and touching the heart and touching the soul, whether it's his faith-based worship songs or the songs that he does as part of R&B. Kenny just brings a real heart and soul to what he sings in any genre of music. So I just really appreciate being able to share that as well. All right, listen, we're getting the wind down to our time today, and I just want to share a couple of things that are going to be coming up as we get to the end of our time today, and just tell you what's coming up next on Coffee Breaks. I've recently been sharing several weeks at a time, and all of those are still in the works. It's just sometimes as we are planning recording sessions and something comes up and we have to shift things, we also then sometimes have to move the specific date that program will air, because we have to have time to get together with the guest, record that conversation, and then come back and put everything together so it's ready to go on the air in Coffee Break. So even though I'll tell you right now, we're pretty much set with every topic and every guest in the lineup in one way or another for the remainder of 2024. We've got most episodes already scheduled through December, and it's just a matter in some cases of shifting which date some of them are actually going to air. So I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but I will tell you that next week, I can tell you this one is ready. A previous guest, is going to come back. She was on a couple years ago, Beth Roars, who is a YouTube influencer and someone who goes on YouTube to both do reactions to other musicians, but she herself is a skilled performer and vocal instructor. And so she's able to bring almost what I call like masterclass types of reactions to what she does. She's originally from Scotland, now lives in England. And Beth is coming back next week to not only give us some more insights about what she does online, but to share some projects that she has going and has had going for the last couple of years, including the production and now release of an album called Fable. And so she's going to be back to talk about a lot of that next week. And then we've got some additional guests that are going to be on in the coming weeks. So you'll want to continue to stay tuned so you see what's coming up next. Do you have some topics? I said that we've got a lot already scheduled for the remainder of this year. That doesn't mean that we're not open to knowing more and to knowing what you might have as an idea for things that we can be sharing as a topic for guests that we might bring on Coffee Breaks. And so I just want to invite you to let us know. You can easily go to our email, cbwsteve@comcast.net, and send me your ideas. It can be an idea just about a topic in general, or you might have an idea about a guest. Maybe it's someone who you think, if you've tuned into Coffee Breaks, you know that we're not looking for famous people necessarily. Always open to fame, and that's fine. But that's not the focus. The focus is interesting people with amazing stories, or you could put that the other way around, amazing people with interesting stories. We love to share the stories. People's stories are what draw us together, people's experiences, and sometimes the challenges they've gone through in the process of their story coming together is something that can motivate and inspire us and let us know that some of the challenges we face aren't necessarily alone. So just an encouragement to you to share those. I've had some that have been shared very recently, and we're already looking at how we can schedule those in. So please be a part of that. You're part of this conversation. You're around our virtual coffee table. You're part of making this happen. So we want to make sure that we're listening to you as well. And then a reminder for both you, if you have not yet had an opportunity to subscribe to our YouTube channel, we want to really just, I will come right out and say, please do that. what we want to be able to do, I love the intimacy that we have when we come on the air, and most of our participants are here on Facebook sharing in the chat. That's the place where we usually come together. Most of us come together live, but we also are out live and in recorded episodes on YouTube. And we've already discovered that there are people who might not find us on Facebook, or maybe even aren't on Facebook, who join us either live or after the fact and find episodes that they can relate to on YouTube. And we can take these amazing guests, we can take these stories, these inspiring stories, and share them with a much broader audience there. We'll always keep the intimacy and this virtual coffee table together here, but we want to get to more people. So if you are not already a subscriber to our YouTube channel, I'm going to really encourage you to do that. Not for me specifically, but so that we can get our stories out to more people. And if you already are, would you be willing to share that link? It's in the chat right now. Easy to find on YouTube, but would you share that with more people so that even more out there in the world, and we've had people even coming to YouTube from other places in the world, not just the United States, who have been inspired by some of the guests and their stories. Please share that with people you know. They're not necessarily going to tune into every single episode, but if they're subscribed to the channel, they're going to see those episodes come up that may have a guest or may have a topic that they can relate to. And we think that's important. All right, that's enough of my pitch on that. And just want to say once again, thank you to Kenny Snyder for taking the time to join us, to be here. And I want to say thank you to all of you who do take the time to come around this virtual coffee table, to be part of the conversation. That's what this is about for me. I like to connect with you every week. I look for those familiar names. I look for the new ones. And that's important. And we get to come together and be part of just this amazing time. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for all that you do I know you make my life more special. And all of us have ways of touching the lives of other people, of being involved in and advocating for things that we're passionate about, that we know are important. So please find a way to make a difference in your world this week. And if you're in the Portland area, come and see Fiona in the Middle tonight. God bless you. Have a great week. We'll see you next time on Coffee Breaks with Steve.